Hi, Phil Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine. And just a few words on the Back to the Beginning Black Sabbath show, which is on July the 5th. I've talked about this a couple of times, and I felt I just wanted to do a quick update because obviously the news has come out now that you can also stream the gig. And this is it's lit up. Is that a word? The internet, hasn't it? Some people are really pleased about it. Some people are outraged because you've got the price, etc. And the usual stuff is everywhere. And I just wanted to kind of not wade in, but just give my thoughts on it, really. I'm really pleased you can stream it. It's not quite live because there's a 2-hour delay, which is unusual, because if it was the Grand Prix you were streaming, or a boxing match or a football match, you think that was pretty strange if there was a 2-hour delay in watching something. I don't know why that is. Some people are saying it's because what happens, something happens, they've got to have time to sort something out, but I don't know. That is what it is. The other thing is it's saying it's £25 to stream, but when you go to pay for it, by the time you've paid taxes and service charges, it's almost 35, which seems to suddenly appear when you go to buy it. And again, that's probably leaving a bad taste in some people's mouths as well. Is it for charity? This part, the main gig and all the tickets is this part? Some people are saying that when we watched Live Aid, we didn't have to pay for it. We just all sat and watched it, and the phone number was at the bottom of the screen for us to donate, and they made lots of money from that. So are there different ways of doing this? I don't know. And in Music Week magazine, which is the music trade mag for the UK, there's a huge article, an interview with Sharon and Tony. And, they're talking about this and the fact that all the bands on that day will be doing Black Sabbath tracks. And behind the scenes, of course, Ozzy's doing his best to get himself healthy for this. The other thing, of course, that has come, to the fore is the fact that all of this is part of a bigger project, which is a film about Ozzy's life and him saying goodbye to his professional career. And this film has been in production for quite a while. A lot of filming has already been done. And the gig is part of that film. So whereas there might be some thought that it was put together as a saying goodbye back to the beginning, isolated Black Sabbath gig, really it's part of this feature film and winding down or celebrating Ozzy's life. So it is a part of the film. The film is going to be shown on the Paramount channel later in the year. So whatever happens, if Ozzy hadn't been well enough to do this, whatever happens, it's part of the film. So if the worst happened, it's part of the film. And so it is about Ozzy. It's not really in isolation about Black Sabbath, which is why Ozzy's also hopefully going to be able to do, with the support of others, some songs from his own solo career, because this is what it's all about. This is Sharon's vision. And there's no need for you all to dive into the comments having a go at Sharon, because this isn't the right place for that. Sharon loves Ozzy and Ozzy loves Sharon. Whatever we may think, we have to stay apart from that. I do have a feeling on this. I mean, she says in the article, "You don't want to F with me," says Osbourne. "I wouldn't have got where I was if I'd been a sweet woman." So this kind of like hard-assed manager that she likes to have this image for, I understand that, but in some ways I kind of don't. And maybe that's because I'm from Birmingham and I grew up with Black Sabbath, and Black Sabbath were part of my life. They were part of Black Sabbath. And some of you, if you live in different parts of the world, may not think it, may understand it, why there's a Black Sabbath bench and why there were Black Sabbath murals and why Aston Villa play Ozzy Osbourne in the background. Sabbath have always been a huge part of the fabric of the city of Birmingham. When I was a kid growing up, I used to go into Birmingham a lot even when I was not old enough really to go to pubs, to go to the rock pubs in Birmingham. Sabbath were part of that, and you could bump into them easily. I mean, mentioned before, I'd walk past the Pennywig pub and I'd walk past Ozzy Osbourne, or I could go to Beatty's, a department store with my mum and dad, and Tony Iommi would be in the queue getting a coffee from the cafeteria. You just saw them around. You saw the band around and they were talked about. And the thing is that although Sabbath had many different lineups and I liked them all, there was something about Ozzy, whether it was because he appeared on the front of the Volume 4 album, although even though he was singing Geezer Butler's lyrics, Ozzy captured the imagination of the audience. There was something very innocent and his bumblingness about him, a party animal. The fact is that without Sabbath, his career he may have ended up behind bars. Sabbath created him and gave him the freedom to be himself. He was a working class guy from Aston. I worked around those factories. I worked in Halliday's, which is a drop forging factory in Whitton. And I used to walk around the factory floor with all the drop hammers, and I should have worn ear protection in hindsight. But I used to love the sound of the drop hammers because they sounded like a Black Sabbath track. You could almost hear Bill Ward in the machinery. You could hear the heavy metal in the machines of the factories. Black Sabbath were born there. Heavy metal was born there. The other thing is that we now think of heavy metal and people like myself talking about it where we have a primarily male audience watching our stuff, is that in the 70s, it was far more mixed. That lots of girls and women loved Ozzy and loved Black Sabbath. There was a much more diverse mix of demographic in the audience for Black Sabbath. There was just, my wife Sue loves Ozzy, loves Black Sabbath, and listens to Ozzy loads. She might come from a classical background, but she loves Sabbath, loves Ozzy. There's something about them. Ordinary Man from one of the recent Ozzy albums. There's just something about him. And that's, I suppose, all I'm trying to say is that where Sharon has said, if I'd been a sweet woman, I wouldn't have got where I was. She helped save Ozzy, but everyone was behind him. There was no probably reason to be that hard-arsed about it, really, because the fans were just with Ozzy. There's a feeling, in this interview where I get a feeling that, Sharon is just talking about Ozzy when she talks about Sabbath and the legacy of these guys. She's not talking about anything beyond the fact when he was not with the band. And really, you've got to celebrate everything Tony did with Geezer and Bill, and Dio, Tony Martin. It's all part of Sabbath, and, full respect to Randy Rhoads and Jake Healy, all the people, Zach Wilde, who've been in and out of Ozzy's band and music, because it's all part of the heritage of heavy metal and that style of music. So in a way, I wish that she would kind of climb down a bit from that kind of side of her personality, because I think we're at that stage where you can. And I also realise that this film, because we're going to see all behind the scenes stuff as Ozzy struggling with his health to try and get ready for this gig, it's going to be heartbreaking. And whatever he can do on the day, whatever he can do, whether it was nothing, it's going to be in the film and the gig will go ahead. And if he can do more than we think he can do, that thinks he can do, that will also be in the film. And we'll see that on the look on his face. But as Sharon says in this interview, Ozzy can't even watch some of the rushes of the film that's been done already, and she can't, because it must be the pressure. And for the band themselves, what are they going to be able to do? It's going to be the last minute, isn't it? What they can and cannot do, and all the support, all these fantastic musicians doing their best to make this a day to remember. So if I know for some people, you're not going to pay for streaming it. It's not live, and why are the taxes being added to it? Where's the money going? I understand that. But if you are going to pay for it, it's great. Good for you. I think there's going to be clips coming up on TikTok in real time of people's phones. all day long, and then it's going to be streamed, and there's going to be the movie, and then there'll be multiple ways that, you know, this is going to be released. I'm not going to, you know, some people are going to say multiple ways of this being exploited, but we're going to lap it up. Many fans will just want, give us the Blu-ray, and it will be there, won't it? There'll be Blu-ray extras with the extra tracks, so it'll all be available at some point, and it's a personal choice. But some of you have spent hundreds and hundreds of pounds to get a ticket for this gig, and some of you are going to spend £35 plus to get a T-shirt, and well, actually, it's more than that. It's about 60 odd quid for the T-shirt and the streaming ticket. Anyway, Black Sabbath are very special, and so is Ozzy. And my feelings are, I couldn't get a ticket. Am I going to stream it with a 2-hour window or whatever going on there? I don't know. All I'm saying is that this is a one-off event, and my feelings are, he's thinking about how Ozzy's feeling about this. A couple of people took pot shots at me for saying, you know, thinking about how Ozzy feels. People say, well, you know, who cares? Well, you know, it's all about the money. Those of you who grew up with Sabbath, those of you who are around, and I'm not, if you're in your 20s and you're just discovering this, I'm not saying you're not as close. Of course you are, you know, but in a different way. But, you know, for me, being in, you know, growing up with rock music, you know, the Purples, Zeppelins and Priests and stuff, and Sabbath, there was something about being in Birmingham. As I said, they were part of the fabric of the music, whatever kind of music we were in. And the fact is, lots of people that may not even like hard rock or heavy metal like Sabbath and Ozzy, because there's something very genuine about them. There's something very down to earth. They're just 4 blokes from Aston who created a genre of music, and they're very humble, all of them. They love the villa. I mean, actually, Sharon is a Brixton girl, isn't she? So, but Ozzy, they're all from Birmingham. They all love this part. This is where they're from. And so I do hope that this gig and everything that comes out of it goes well. I really do. And I really hope Ozzy can... I hope that Ozzy gets out of it what he needs to get out of it for himself, because he really genuinely does care about his fans. Well, no matter what, whoever manages him, whatever, anything, Ozzy wants to do this. And Tony and Bill and Geezer want to help him do this. And all the other musicians who have come together for this, they want to do this to be part of something. And a lot of the fans who spent hundreds of pounds on hotel bills and tickets and the streaming tickets, whatever, having it on your big telly, whatever, it's because you want to be part of this. Because there won't be anything as big as this. And if the wheels fall off, they might, but it'll still be a unique experience. And I hope that whatever happens when this is plugged into the rest of the film, that the other side of this gig, we capture Ozzy feeling that he did the best he could do, and the fans were there for him. Thank you for listening. Let me know what you think. Be kind, because that's where this is coming from. I'm talking from the heart and how I feel on this. So think about it, you know, but your comments are more than welcome. But thank you for being here, and thank you for all of your support and with Now Spinning Magazine. And please subscribe, you know, for further updates and videos and stuff, because no doubt I've got, you know, loads of Sabbath stuff coming up to celebrate this side, and I've got quite a special podcast coming up as well with someone very connected to Black Sabbath and who knows Tony very well. So thank you for being here, and if you can help me a bit more by becoming a patron or a YouTube member, please look at the links below, because that would be really, really wonderful as well. Take care. Remember, music is the healer and the doctor. Keep spinning those discs, and I'll talk to you all very, very soon.